Hey guys, welcome to the Pulling Curls podcast. Today on episode 137, we are talking about what to expect after you have the baby. So much of our time is spent talking about what happened during pregnancy, but there's a whole life that you have after the baby. Let's untangle it. Hi, I'm Hillary Erickson, the curly head behind the Pulling Curls podcast, where we untangle pregnancy, parenting, home, and even travel. We know there's no right answer for every family, but hopefully we can spark some ideas that will work for yours. Life's tangled, just like my hair. Okay, guys, before we get started, you might have found this on my website or Instagram or whatever. Go ahead. Open your favorite podcast player and subscribe to the Pulling Curls podcast, Pregnancy and Parenting Untangled, so that you can get every single episode. Today's guest has been a postpartum nurse for 6 years. That means she's the nurse that you have after you have the baby. And I've actually found her on TikTok. I want to introduce today's guest, mother baby nurse Jessica. Do you feel prepared for your delivery? In just 3 short hours, you can be prepared for the confident, collaborative delivery you want. You'll know what to expect and how to talk with your healthcare team, and there are no boring lessons in this class. I'll use humor, stories from my 20 years in the delivery room to engage both of you. I love how Alyssa told me that she found herself laughing at things that used to sound scary. Most of all, you guys are going to be on the same page from bump to bassinet. Join the online prenatal class for couples today. You can save 15% with coupon code UNTANGLED. You can find the link in the show notes. Hey, Jessica, welcome to the Pulling Curls podcast.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Yeah, so I met Jessica on TikTok. You give so much good postpartum information because you are a straight up postpartum nurse, right?
Well, I'm a mother baby nurse, so I work with moms postpartum after they have their baby and their newborns as well.
Right. Just so you guys know, depending on what hospital you deliver at, it's always called something different. Couplet care, postpartum, mother baby, you name it. Yeah. After baby.
Yeah, they like to keep you on your feet.
Yeah. Although I bet mother baby's going to go away. Do you think? With all the verbiage changes?
I don't think so. I hope that it doesn't, because I don't know. I've worked in hospitals where it's separate, where it's you have a postpartum nurse and a baby nurse, and I've worked in
no, I mean the name mother baby.
Oh, the name mother baby. I hope not.
It's a better than like postpartum or couplet care. Sounds kind of like sterile. So who knows? So that's where you go after you have the baby, if you guys are confused. So I would deliver you in labor and delivery, and then I would hand you off to a great nurse like Jessica.
Yep, about 2 hours later.
Yeah. So you guys, and one of my hospitals that I worked at, we only got 1 hour. So it's different for everybody. 2 hours seems to be the norm for most people anymore, I feel like.
Yeah, I think that's kind of what A1 standards a lot of times talks about is 2 hours.
Yeah. Okay. So today we want to talk about these things that seem to like catch everybody by surprise about postpartum, which I think a lot of things, I think you're just like, the baby's out and it's sunshine and rainbows and just amazing. And there's still some bumps in your road as you head after the baby.
For sure. It's funny. C-section moms, I think they're always very shocked that they're having postpartum bleeding. They're like, well, I didn't have a baby come out like that way. Why would I have bleeding? I'm like, no, you're still going to have bleeding like during your postpartum period. And a lot of times they're just completely blown away by that.
Yeah, because most of your bleeding actually doesn't come from your vagina. It comes from the uterus.
And everyone has one of those, whether you had a baby vaginally or a C-section.
Yeah. I would actually say my bleeding was the least on my 4th degree tear versus like my 3rd baby, just because every baby you bleed more. Your uterus gets tired.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have babies at home, Jessica?
I have a 2-year-old daughter. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So she's done this too. All right. So I thought it would be fun for each of us to kind of go back and forth and talk about the different things that seem to surprise people. So I'm going to give my number 1 is, because, you know, my blog's called Pulling Curls, hair loss. I felt like I was on chemotherapy and I was going to be bald.
For sure. And what's funny about that is it doesn't actually hit until like a couple months postpartum.
Yeah.
And so people think, oh, I'm in the clear. My bleeding's done. I'm good. And you're like, wait, what's happening?
Yes. So you grow this luscious mane while you are pregnant and you get all this extra hair. It's probably from all that blood flow and the hormones, and you're just growing lots of things when you're pregnant. And then those disappear and boom, goodbye, luscious locks. But you're really just going back to the hair you had before, most likely.
Yeah. You don't shred as much hair when you're pregnant.
Oh, really?
It like all stays in there. Yeah. So it's because you don't shred all that hair and then you do.
Goodbye hair.
So you're playing catch up. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then a lot of times you'll see they get the wispies like on the top of their head. They'll be like, here's my little postpartum hair. So all that's super normal and just to be expected. And get one of those things for your drain so your husband's not mad when you clog it.
Oh, that's a good tip. Yeah, for sure. One of my things it talks about like swelling. If you had a vaginal delivery, like even if you didn't tear, a lot of women do tear. Even if you had no tears or a small tear, you're going to feel like you're walking around with like a ball between your legs. Like you sometimes feel just uncomfortably swollen, and that's totally normal. Ice will be your friend.
Yes. Oh man, I love me a good ice pack. And it's that's so normal because I mean, as the baby comes through there, the tissues stretch. And then when it's done, the tissues get a little angry that happened. So they swell up.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I always keep an ice. I tell all my patients, if you're not feeling it cold anymore, ask for a new ice pack, obviously, and you're not asleep. Ask for a new ice pack because, just change them out as much as you can.
For sure. It will really help with that swelling.
Yeah.
And it's weird. A lot of women on the second day, they complain of being sore down there and they weren't sore the day before. And I'm like, have you been using your ice? Well, no, I thought that I was done with it. You use your ice. It will help even on the second day.
Yeah. And there's those padsicles you can make ahead of time that are like witch hazel. And what else do you put in? Aloe?
Aloe, witch hazel. I like the diaper trick. I think that's like one of my favorite things.
Oh, I think I saw that on your TikTok. Yeah.
Yeah, where you cut a diaper and you put ice down it and it absorbs the ice and it absorbs any bleeding, and you don't have to make them ahead of time if you're not like a super DIY mom.
Right. I think I saw somebody made them like a padsicle, which would be handy because as a padsicle thaws, like a regular postpartum pad is not going to like absorb all that witch hazel plus your blood. So you're going to have some leakage. But if you just use a diaper, don't use a newborn one, use like a size one and stick it in there, then it will absorb all that and you won't end up leaking. So I thought that was a smart idea. Okay. Awesome. All right. I actually thought of swelling in your legs when you were saying swelling, because that's super normal when you have a C-section or vaginal delivery. We just pump you full of fluids in labor and delivery to make, especially if you had an epidural, we give you extra fluids to make sure that your blood pressure stays up, and you will find your legs are just swollen, and it'll totally go away, and you'll pee like a racehorse, and it'll be totally fine. But don't be surprised if you're like, wow, I thought this was going to go away.
Yes, bringing an extra pair of bigger shoes is like one of the things I tell people in your hospital bag. No one tells you, but you may need bigger shoes to leave the hospital because your feet may be so swollen.
Yeah, or just some like streetworthy slippers will probably be a welcome addition. A lot of people end up bringing flip-flops to the hospital anyway, so you just prance out in those, I guess, when you're done. Okay, for sure. Do you have another one?
Another one would be those postpartum cramps, and you're a mom of multiple babies, so you probably remember how the more babies you have, the worse those postpartum cramps are for each one. It's a lot worse whenever you're like breastfeeding or pumping, and those are normal things, but going pee often can really help with it, and like a heating pad.
Oh, that's good. Those are good advice. Yes. On my third baby, I was like, now's when I need the epidural. Where is my anesthesiologist? I almost called one of my anesthesiologists to be like, hey, I know I'm at home, but any chance you just run on by, because they are those cramps.
The uterus, like it gets tired like that. Babies, it's open, it's gone back down, it's gotten big and small over and over again, and it's doing a lot of work, and you're feeling that work.
Yeah, and you bleed more, and you have bigger clots. Just your uterus.
Yes.
Is tired, and it's longer. The bleeding took longer on each baby. At least for me, I have heard some people that are like, "No, it was the same for everyone," and I'm like, "Man, your uterus is top notch." Yeah, I was going to say pain because a lot of times, those postpartum cramps come, especially with breastfeeding. And so when we latch the baby on, you get like a little dose of oxytocin, which is a lot of times what we give you to induce you. So those, your body all of a sudden, clamps down on your uterus so that you don't die. I mean, all of this is meant to keep all that blood inside your body, which is where we like to keep our blood, not outside our body. So yeah, it's not fun, but just expect it. You can take ibuprofen. Like I love what Jessica said, heating pack and peeing, because a lot of times if your bladder's full, your uterus doesn't clamp down as easily. So yeah.
Yeah, your bladder is right next to your uterus. So if you think about it filling up, it pushes on that uterus and that's more work. So you got to fill that work.
Yeah.
So I always tell moms, before you breastfeed, get up, go pee, change everything, and then feed baby. And hopefully everyone can get a nap after.
Yeah. And then you've already peed. So it's,
Yes.
Good job. I think that's such a smart idea. I like those tips because also I was thinking probably on my third baby, I held more urine because I was just busier, right?
Yeah.
Trying to get the things done.
That's for sure.
All right. Another one of mine is depression. And I think it's really normal to have these baby blues, which can feel very much like depression, especially on day 3 to 4, for things to just feel like they're falling apart. Like the sky is falling. This is never going to get any better. The adrenaline of delivery is over and you're welcome to your new reality.
Yeah. And it's crazy because you can have those like happy tears and sad tears. Like people think of baby blues and they think of just feeling like sad, but I remember crying about like my taco being good and being like, what is wrong with me? Why am I crying about this? And I'm not a crier. And so happy tears, sad tears, totally normal. But if it's lasting longer than like those 2 weeks, you definitely need to get it checked out. And what's crazy to me is I actually had a therapist friend of mine who says she sees more people around 4 to 6 months postpartum for actual postpartum depression and anxiety, because you have another hormone shift that happens around then. They kind of think if you're breastfeeding, that's related to also starting solids around that time. I think it's because you're exhausted at that point. You've been on no sleep for so long. So just because your bleeding's done, don't think that you can't have like postpartum depression and anxiety.
Yeah. And I had Stephanie Mama Therapy from TikTok on, and she said it's like up until the first year they can call it postpartum depression. Yeah. So
yep.
Take care of yourself and don't be surprised when it happens. My friend who just had baby number 10, she's always like, oh, this is the part where I just feel like crap and I need to just watch myself, but know that this is normal and I'm going to get through it. So I think that's such a good way to look at it.
Yeah. And it's nothing like moms do wrong. Sometimes I think there's this notion if I'm feeling sad or anxious, like I'm not handling it well. It must be something I'm doing wrong. And you don't have to have any kind of history of it. You don't have to have anything that you're doing wrong. It's just postpartum and it kind of stinks sometimes.
Yeah. Well, and I think a lot of that hormone is Mother Nature giving you an intense love for that baby. She's making strong emotions for tacos and babies and husbands and yeah. So that
it's how the world goes around. Like, you take care of your baby, your husband, you're eating.
Yes.
So you have all these weird emotions.
I may have cried over a taco, not even after a baby. I mean, tacos can be really good.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, did you have another one?
Yeah, talking about hormones, those night sweats. Oh my goodness. Like you have such a big crash of hormones happening postpartum that I remember waking up and it was around the time my milk came in and it's like you got milk everywhere, you're sweating everywhere, you need to change everything down there. And you're like, well, this is super attractive. Like, yeah. I feel disgusting. But postpartum night sweats are totally normal. And some women think I must be running a fever, like something must be wrong. And it's those postpartum sweats. They're intense.
Yeah. Obviously, if you think you have a fever, just quickly check your temperature. But most likely it's postpartum sweats. Because usually if you have a fever, you're going to have like the achiness in addition to the night sweats. But yes, your sheets. And then you're like, did I pee my bed? Because my sheets are wet. I don't know what's going on here. It's just a lot of...
Yeah, postpartum, don't use your favorite sheets.
And make sure, I always tell people in the 3rd trimester to make sure they put a waterproof mattress cover on their mattress, just in case stuff comes out.
You need it.
Yeah. Yes. And I think some of that's probably related to the fluids we give you. So the swelling I was talking about, some of it comes out in those night sweats. Your body's just releasing all of it. And all that extra fluids you had during pregnancy, your body's just like, let's get rid of this. We don't need it anymore, which amen. I'm not sad about that.
Yeah.
Anyway, did you have any other ones, Jessica?
Some that I didn't even think about until after I had my daughter is how common postpartum thyroid issues are and postpartum gallbladder issues. I actually had my gallbladder taken out postpartum about 9 weeks after I had my daughter. You have that like pain that's at the base of your chest that is super intense, kind of out of nowhere. Usually it's after you eat. And it was worse than labor pains for me for sure. And when I went to the doctor to get it looked at, they're like, oh yeah, your postpartum, super common. Yep, you're going to have that removed. And I was like, oh, this is a common thing that everybody has? Yeah. And I was a postpartum nurse for like 4 or 5 years before I had my daughter and had no clue about that. And then my sister had postpartum thyroid issues and her doctor was like, yeah, this is super common. Who would have known?
Yeah. Well, I mean, in our defense, like we really don't see you after sometimes like 2 weeks, we'll get a mom readmitted, but that's pretty much it. We don't see you much after that.
That's pretty much it. Yeah. But it wasn't a common thing that I heard about beforehand. And so like, if you feel like something's wrong with your body, if you feel like something's up, something's not right, then like go and get it checked out.
Yeah. Especially because, I mean, that could have been like a pulmonary embolism. Like blood clots are not uncommon after you have the baby. And then also I always get my eyes checked like when baby's about 6 months old, and dental visits once you can leave baby safely for a period of time, just because baby can mess with like all sorts of things.
Oh, that is so true. Yeah, we go through a lot to have those babies.
Yeah, I've been seeing on TikTok a lot of people whose teeth have been ruined by pregnancy. So,
oh, goodness.
Times. Anyway, just be prepared for the postpartum period. When I started teaching prenatal classes for my hospital, Jessica, it really was like, it's just sunshine and rainbows. It was just like a whiff of a chapter about postpartum. And I was like, oh no. Oh. And I just increased it to like almost a whole night where I was just like, let's be really realistic about what you're going to be facing when you go home. So then when I started teaching my own, I was like, we are not going to like slide over that topic, people. We need to be aware.
Oh, yeah, that's so important. Butterflies and rainbows. Yeah, people think that and like breastfeeding. I actually had a dad once get like really frustrated. He's like, they told us it was going to be all butterflies and rainbows. Those were his exact words. He's like, and it is not. I'm like, oh, no, it's not. I'm sorry that you were told that because that is a lie.
Yeah. And I think, my prenatal class was in 2000, but it was literally just like breastfeeding will just be natural and beautiful and you will enjoy it. And I was like, nothing like that at all. So
no,
I think getting prepared for your postpartum period is just as important as preparing for pregnancy. So you can take a lactation class and just get prepared. So follow Jessica on TikTok also for lots of good information.
Yep. Mother Baby Nurse Jessica. I talk about all kinds of weird stuff. People are really obsessed when I talk about pee and stuff postpartum. So
I just don't think we talk about it. Well, first off, a lot of people don't talk about pee in public, unlike nurses who are just like, why would you not talk about pee in public?
Yeah, it's normal.
Yeah. But I think the more we can be like, this is totally normal. Just expect it. Here's some ways you can like you were saying, just use a heating pad and pee before. And then, there are small things we can do to make it easier. And I love it when we discuss stuff like that.
For sure. And the more you know ahead of time and have that good support system in place, because you're going to need that support postpartum more than you will probably during pregnancy. A meal train is super helpful. If you have friends that will put together a meal train, we didn't make food at our house for like 2 weeks and it was amazing.
Yeah.
So food trains are also super helpful.
And as a friend of pregnant people, like I love that's such an easy way to help out. It doesn't take a lot of time from my own life. I just double a recipe and bring it over. So yeah, take people up.
For sure.
Thanks for coming on, Jessica. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me.
Okay, guys, I hope you found that episode helpful because like I said in the beginning, like you're postpartum I'm like so postpartum. I'm 20 years postpartum by now. And, when I die, I'll be 80 years postpartum. So, you have a lot more postpartum life than you do pregnancy life, if that makes sense. So get prepared. That's why I have those 2 chapters in my class. I have one on what to expect postpartum in the hospital and one on what to expect in those weeks and months once you go home. So definitely get prepared. Don't miss next week's episode where we are talking about your organization questions. I got them off social media and through my email list, and I'm going to answer them on next week's episode. And if you're looking for more pregnancy information, we're talking about refusing exams during pregnancy the week after that. Thanks so much for joining us on today's episode. We know you have lots of options for your ears, and we are glad that you chose us. We drop episodes weekly, and until next time, we hope you have a tangle-free day.